From what I've heard from people that know a lot more about viruses than I do, and in terms of having a vaccine, it's a long ways off. So it is scary stuff. I don't think it should affect what you do in stocks, but in terms of the human race, it's scary stuff when you have a pandemic. They revised the tax code big time. They killed general utilities. You can't do that now. Now you can have spin-offs, this business or that business. You probably have to lie a little in terms of your purpose in order to get the best tax ruling. And it takes time, but you cannot you cannot dispose of the entire business, business by business, without having very substantial tax liability. It would not produce a gain. On the other hand, having them together produces, there's some very valuable synergies in there. Now, we don't use leverage as much as the people who would buy them piece by piece would do. So we could leverage Berkshire up to the sky. I've promised people we won't, because we have insurance promises to people out 50 or 100 years, and we've got shareholders who are going to own the stock for 50 years, and they do not want us to leverage to the sky. But there would not be a profit if we were simply to announce that over the next 24 months that you could come in and buy any business we had and we'd sell them to the highest bidder. Wall Street would love to come along and sell anything that we've got. I mean, there's a fee every time that there's a transaction, and they're big fees, and there's fees for financing. I mean, so we've had all kinds of people snoop around that. They know they're not getting it done with me, but it won't get done later on either. I am leaving every share of Berkshire I have goes to charity, and it's 99% of my net worth. So nobody cares more than I do about getting the most money to those philanthropies over the years following my death. And that's going to take place over 15 years, and I say keep it all in Berkshire. But if I thought that it was going to be run in a way responsive to Wall Street, I would instead do something else and have the money distributed to these philanthropies and not have it all tied to Berkshire. But Berkshire has a very unusual shareholder base. I mean, we have individuals that own Berkshire, and a lot of them have owned it 50 years just like it's people buy it to own for lifetime, and we're going to run it in a way that they won't be disappointed in. Well, we try to, because that's who we encourage. I mean, in effect, we don't want everybody to buy our stock. I mean, there's only so many seats. There's about 1,600,000 and some A shares out. All the seats are filled. I love the shareholders we have. I don't want to go to Wall Street and try and get some new shareholders. They're going to replace the people we have. So what we want to have is people in those seats that are in sync with us. You can run a French restaurant, or you can run a hamburger stand. And if you serve good hamburgers, you'll do good business at the hamburger stand. You can, at the French restaurant, you can do the same thing there. But you can't run the French restaurant and then serve hamburgers inside, and you can't run the hamburger stand and serve French food inside. So we advertise in our deeds, in our words, in every way we can what we're about. And we're looking to have the seats filled at our church by people who are in sync with us, and we do have them there. We get the same people every Sunday. And I see no advantage in going out and telling everybody in Wall Street we're going to do wonderful things and having those seats replaced, because the only way you can get a seat is to throw somebody else out of that seat. There's only so many seats, and they're all full, and you want them filled with people who are in sync with the policies of the company, and therefore you have to explain those policies, and you have to live up to those policies, and for 55 years we've tried to. We're not trying to have the railroad management run the utility here. Well, we have decentralized management as it is. We could have somebody in charge of all the little companies, another one for the big. I mean, we could divisionalize it in all kinds of ways. A different sort of manager. Our managers like running their own businesses, and they never have to finance their businesses. I mean, they never have to go to Wall Street. They probably save 25% of their time, and I want them to feel they own their businesses, and that's all they're responsible for. If we mess up some other way, they get paid based on how they do, and there again, we attract managers who like to operate on that basis. We don't attract managers, particularly who think they're going to keep moving step by step through various divisions and eventually run the whole place. Banking is a good business if you don't do dumb things on the asset side. I mean, basically, it's a business that the banks we own earn between, the commercial banks earn between 12% and 16% or so on net tangible assets. That's a good business. It's a fantastic business against the long-term bond, at 2%. If you have a choice between a 2% instrument and a 12% instrument, which one's going to win over time? So if you ask me whether I think banks are going to go down where they only earn 3 or 4% on tangible assets, I don't think that'll happen. The question is really whether they do something massively dumb, which periodically a number of banks have done. And I feel very good about the banks we own. They're very attractive compared to most other securities I see. And most of them are buying, Bank of America is buying in a lot of stock every year. So our ownership of the Bank of America this year probably will go up 7 or 8% without us spending a dime. I'd like to own any business, any good business where my ownership goes up 7 or 8% every year without me spending any money, and on top of it I get a dividend and so on. They're very attractive, both against interest rates and against against bonds and against other stocks, in my view. Wells Fargo is classic in terms of one lesson. My partner, Charlie Munger, he says, whenever we have a problem, you attack it immediately. He says an ounce of prevention is not worth a pound of cure. An ounce of prevention is worth a ton of cure. And we've seen that time after time. And the interesting thing, and I don't know the details at all, but the original thing was a whole bunch of phony accounts. Now, I don't know how, if you open up a couple million phony accounts, you make any money on it at all. The shareholders didn't make. You can devise dumb incentive systems. We've done them ourselves. You can cause people to do the wrong thing because they will do what they're incented to do. And they had obviously a very dumb incentive system. People started playing it various ways. And the big thing is they ignored it when they found out about it. You're going to do dumb things in business, and we do them every day, But you absolutely have to attack a problem as soon as it occurs, and you know about it. And if that had happened, Wells Fargo shareholders would be a lot better off. But Wells Fargo shareholders did not profit from opening up accounts that were phony accounts that had nothing in them. Somebody was getting paid so much per account, and the practice spread, because bad practices do spread if they're allowed to spread. And they were ignored, which is a total disaster. And look at the consequences. So 2 or 3 years later, who's paying? The shareholders are paying for something that didn't do them any good whatsoever.